Hello lovelies, and welcome back to Squeaky's Cauldron, or welcome if this is your first time here. I'm your host, Sarah Evergreen, and today we're going to be talking about working with Saturn, the energy of Saturn. If you haven't already, go check out the video that I released yesterday. That's about the Saturn returns period. It's the time of your life when Saturn comes back into the same place in your natal chart that he was when you were born, and it covers from about 28 to 31 years old. So go look at that. It's some good stuff to know if you're going through that time period especially. Today though, we're going to be focusing more on working with Saturn outside of the Saturn returns period. So this is basically just being able to channel Saturn's energy and embody Saturn's energy and ask him for support as well as you are going through your normal life. If you're interested in hearing more about the history of Saturn and Saturn's mythology, you can check out the podcast that I've released. It's a longer form, audio only, obviously, which you can find on any podcast platform under Squeaky's Cauldron. So, what kind of energy does Saturn bring to the table? Well, I like to call him our grumpy sky grandpa. So kind of think of that. The tough as nails, work hard, put your head down, get it done kind of archetype. I think you can imagine this type in your head. He's always got some kind of screws or nuts or bolts in his pockets, maybe a little bit of grease on the end of his shirt cuff. He knows his way around a shop, he knows his way around a schedule, and he thinks that you absolutely should too. That's Saturn. Also, like moving in with that kind of old man archetype, Saturn is the god of death. He is associated with the angel of death in the Judeo-Christian mythos. He carries around a sickle in his mythology. That's one of his big moments, is using a sickle to do some interesting things. Again, check out the podcast if you're interested in that. But he is a god of time, like the inevitability of time. You'll often hear Saturn related to death and taxes, things that are quote-unquote inevitable, things that we all have to deal with. I say quote-unquote because taxes is kind of an iffy one, but death, certainly we all have to deal with death. And we all need structure, which Saturn is kind of impels us to get into our lives, whether we want it or not. We all need structure. Without structure, we just become this kind of jumbled mass of whatever, and we don't move forward in our lives. We don't get things done that we want to get done. We don't accomplish the things we want to accomplish. We don't eat the way that we want to eat. We don't sleep the way that we want to sleep. Structure is the thing that helps us be able to, be wild and have the creative dreams that we have and make the bold moves that we want to make in our lives. Without structure, we can't do that because there's nothing to hang on to, so to speak. He's also the god of boundaries for exactly the same reason. And when I talk about boundaries here, I'm talking about personal and interpersonal boundaries. Those boundaries that we have around how we will be treated and how we will treat ourselves. So when we have a really strong boundary practice, we are able to relax into our relationships and to show up fully and more vulnerably, because we know that we've established with ourselves and with the people in our lives that if we do show up in this vulnerable way, it's not going to be used against us. We're not going to be punished for it. So boundaries, while some people definitely take offense to them, mostly because they benefit from you not having boundaries, boundaries allow us to be more free. They allow us to soften. They allow us to tap into the feminine energetic within us, the receptive energetic, because the strong masculine energetic is there holding the container for that softness. Think of it like the four walls of a box, and then the soft lapping waves of water within. That softness is the feminine, and the walls are the masculine. The walls are that Saturnian energy. He's associated with the zodiac sign of Capricorn. So if you know anything about astrology, Capricorn is the business sign. Hardworking, determined, ready to go at it, ready to quantify data and get everything in a spreadsheet and know how things are going to go. What are we going to do in the next quarter? What are we going to do in the quarter after that? How are we going to improve things? What's our ROI? What's our KPIs? This kind of thing. Big Saturn energy there. Saturn likes to know what's going on and keep track of it and be able to project things out as well as to improve things. This is all energy that we can benefit from. If you are starting a business, or if you want to improve your relationships, or if you want to feel better in your body, literally any goal that you have can use the help of the support of a Saturn energy, can use the support of working with Saturn. Even if it's, I want to have more fun. Okay, schedule having more fun into your calendar. Actually put that down in writing that you're going to do this at this time and it's a non-negotiable. That will help get you into that place. And calling upon Saturn as you're putting that into your schedule, being like, hey, can you help me out with this? Like, I want to do this. I want to keep this. And I'm calling upon your energy to do that. Like, that will help. He'll come in and he'll help hold that container for you while you can go off and have your joyful time. There are lots of different ways to work with Saturn. Wearing a talisman is one great way to keep that energy with you and remind you of it and just kind of bring it into the space. So this, I don't know if you can see it very well, but this is a Saturn talisman that was made by Steven Anderson of Metal Mysterium. I'll talk a little bit more about him later. And I wore it for the last video that I recorded on Saturn as well, because it really does bring me that nice, deep, grounded, structured energy. So having something like that, might be something around your wrist, just something that is on your person that you will see, that you can touch, that will remind you of the energy that you're bringing into your life. That is kind of across the board. Like, talismans are fantastic for creating that physical touch point for you, as well as bringing in the energy of whatever you charge it with, whatever elective astrology has been going on when it was created, and whatever just inherent qualities that the stone or the metals or the symbology that you use has. Like, that'll bring it all in. Other ways to work with him: determine your structures. So I say that everybody needs structures. 100% true. Not everybody needs the same structures. In fact, that is just a recipe for disaster. If you're expecting your structures to look exactly like the structures of your neighbor or your boss or your brother or your best friend, like, it's going to make things so much more difficult for you. We're all designed differently, and thank God for that. Like, we need so many different kinds of peoples and minds and ways that we work in the world. Also, like, past trauma and current trauma, current situations, all of that affects how our different structures can work. Like, if you are navigating PTSD, your structures are going to look very different from someone who just got married, for example. If there's a combination of those two things, again, different structures. So the way to determine your structures, one like very broad eagle's eye view about it, is to just sit down, look at what's worked for you in the past, find any common threads through that, and then put that together in the context of where you are now, and then like start to experiment. Put that into practice. Just a little part of it, put it into practice. Which brings me to my next point: keeping small promises to yourself. Maybe you don't know what your structures look like. That's fine. Maybe you have an idea of what your structures look like, but they're big and unwieldy and you're not in the same place that you were before. Also fine. What I want you to do is just start making very small promises to yourself. By this I mean waking up in the morning, drinking a cup of water, or I will spend 5 minutes meditating before I get out of bed, or I will do 10 jumping jacks in the morning before I take my shower. Or you might notice I keep mentioning morning. It's because I'm a huge fan of morning routines, and I think that it really sets the tone for the whole day. And I believe that Saturn also kind of supports that. It's this getting your structure, getting your discipline in place before this rest of your day that may be a little bit more free-flowy than your morning could be. So maybe what you do then is combine determining your structures and keeping a small promise to yourself, and just create a short morning routine that you can honestly keep to every day for yourself, depending upon the context of your circumstances, where you're at, what you're doing, what you need. Whatever it is, just make it like 5, 10, 15 minutes, something that you can easily slot into your day. Just set the alarm a tiny bit earlier, or don't hit snooze once, and get that in. And know that you've promised that to yourself, and you've kept that promise to yourself. But again, keep it really small. If you're just starting out, if you don't have any of those things in place, keep it really, really small. Because it's so much more advantageous to you to be able to keep a teeny tiny promise than it is to make a bigger promise and then not do it. That's just going to eat away at your self-trust, whereas keeping these small promises is going to build your self-trust. And that's what we want. We want you getting stronger. We want you getting more independent. We want you feeling more capable and empowered in your body, in your heart, and in your mind. That's the goal of all of this, really. That's the goal of everything that I do. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel capable. I want you to know in your heart of hearts that you have all the agency and everything that you need. And this is one of many, many ways to go about it. You can organize your space both internally and externally. So internally, that goes back to the structure, but it also is about like going to therapy and finding, what programming you're working with and how that's affecting your life right now. Refer again to the Saturn Returns episode for more information on that. But also like the external organization. What does your environment look like? Is it cluttered? Can you get rid of stuff? I bet you can. I bet we all can. I can, and I live out of a suitcase. So, and the last suggestion I have for working with Saturn is to get a reading, to find Saturn in your chart. Something that focuses specifically on where Saturn is, what he's doing, who he's hanging out with, how he's aspected. I recommend Steven Anderson at Metal Mysterium for this. He, like I said, is the one that made this talisman. He does astrological charts as well as talismanic work that is specifically related to your astrological chart and any kind of specific energy that you want to call in. So he's a great person to work with. He is the only astrologer I work with now, in large part because we go way back. And I'll include his contact info in the show notes. If you're interested, definitely reach out. So I hope that after this video you can see that Saturn is a really important energy to work with. I do want to say though that he's probably not a deity that you want to work with exclusively because he can get very heavy. And we want to utilize that heaviness to ground us so that we can be more open and joyful and fluid. Again, be sure to check out the Saturn Returns video that I released yesterday. And I've got a Saturn EFT tapping video out for you. So check out that video if you want to clear any blockages that you have about having structure and discipline in your life. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notifications button. I love to hear from you guys. If you have any requests for future episodes, please let me know. Also, I still have 2 coaching spots open for my beta coaching. It's 3 45-minute calls throughout the month of September, focusing on helping you get unstuck and feel like you know where you're going, getting that next step put into place. So if you're interested in that, just subscribe to Moon Pages. I'll have the link in the description. Or if you're already subscribed, reach out to me directly and let me know, and we can set something up. Okay, until next time, next week, we're going to be talking about the sweet, sweet magic of the honey pot. So I'll see you next week, and until then, my lovelies, as always, use your voice.